Good afternoon. This is State Representative Kevin Chambliss here at Community Newspaper to have a very important discussion about some of the issues that are going on in our community. I represent Florida House District 117. That is the communities of Florida City, Homestead, Leisure City, Naranja, Princeton, Goulds, West Perrine, and of course, Richmond Heights. And this is my third term in office, so I'm very happy to be here speaking with community newspapers today. They do so much good in our community. I really appreciate them giving me this platform. Now, I didn't come alone. We have some special guests that are here because we want to talk about some of the issues that affect some of our most vulnerable residents in our community, some of the folks who need our support the most, and that's children with disabilities. Specifically, we're going to be talking with Miss Stacey Hoaglund from the Autism Society of Florida. She's going to be telling us about what that great organization does and what its mission is and what it's doing to enhance the lives of our young people. Then we have Mr. Sergio Caldera and Ms. Urania Caldera from Beyond Expectations Academy, a school that's right here in District 117 that's doing great work with kids with disabilities. And so let's jump right in it. Miss Stacey, we'll start with you. If you could tell us about the Autism Society of Florida and the work that it does.
Well, the ASF is comprised of both family members of children and adults with autism and adults with autism because we feel that it's vitally important to have the people that are really helping the rest of us make good decisions for the autism community be people with autism. It just makes sense to us. And so, really, what we do more than anything is we serve a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. So, we work on creating safer schools. We talk about drowning prevention, which is a huge issue for the autism community. And then making sure that our law enforcement officers are trained in autism because, a lot of times, we all have interactions with police from time to time. And we want to make sure that our first responders know what to do when they come across someone who's on the autism spectrum. And then, of course, we have support groups and all that good stuff that many other organizations in the area have.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I know that you guys have done a lot of work during the last legislative session. There was a lot of good bills and good initiatives that were centered around support for the autism community, whether that be the families, the parents, and or the kids themselves. Could you talk a little bit about some of the successes from last year and maybe what you're looking forward to in this next upcoming legislative session?
Well, we were really lucky. We had support from leadership, which was fabulous from both the Senate president and the Speaker of the House. So it was great. And it's interesting how so many legislators now actually have a personal connection to autism. And so we kind of knew for decades that once it really affected more of our leadership, that it was going to be moved to the front. So we had Senate Bill 112 that came through last year that was probably the most comprehensive autism bill in the history of Florida. So we were really fortunate in that. Really, the focus there is on early identification and intervention, making sure that our educators have the training that they need, and a whole host of things. So I encourage everybody to check that bill out because there's a lot in that. We also have a spectrum alert that passed. So we've all heard of Amber Alert. So the spectrum alert is going to be that really and getting everybody on call, if you will, when a person with autism has wandered away, eloped from the home, which is directly tied to drowning. Um, right now, according to DCF, the state of Florida is at 93 children who have died this year from drowning. And in almost all of those, what it says on the DCF website is that the child got out of the home undetected, which is something that families of children with autism face far more often than the general population. So, that bill we were really happy about. Some of the things that we know we still need to work on, of course, is what we're going to talk about today: the cameras in the classroom. And we also had, which was really great, the governor signed off on $1 million to go towards the swimming voucher, and 300,000 of that was earmarked for the autism community. So we were really happy to get that designation as well.
Awesome, awesome. We know that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Florida, in the United States, we have the most cases of child drownings here in Florida. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to address that. The work that you guys has been so important, and we're making a clarion call to the community. Let's continue to amplify these concerns. Let's continue to be supportive. So let's talk about it. The Cameras in Classrooms bill, in which I was able to run for the last couple of years with my Republican colleague, Chase Tremont. We wanted to make sure that while our kids are in school, that they are as safe as possible. But we also know that some of the kids in the autism community, in the kids with disability community, some of them are nonverbal. And many times that question that we all ask our kids at the end of the day, how was your day? These are kids and families that'll never get an answer. And so we wanted to make sure that we were acknowledging that there have been incidents where parents have seen injuries on their child and been left with questions that to this day are still unanswered. And that is why we presented a Cameras in Classroom bill, a bipartisan effort that would allow parents to request and to have cameras placed in the classrooms of these students, only for the footage of their child. Of course, other children would be blurred out. And this was something that we know is a very sensitive topic because we didn't want it used for anything else but for that parent to understand exactly what happens with their child while their child was in school. There was a pilot study done in Broward a couple of years ago. We've gotten the results of that, and from that, we have created a bill. So I take it to you, Miss Stacey. Tell us about the importance of the bill. Tell us a little bit about that pilot study, and why our efforts here are so important.
Well, like you said, Representative Chambliss, when we send our kids to school, everyone, every parent out there, we expect them to go from our care into the care of the teacher, right? We kind of assume they're going to be in a safe space when they're in school. But for kids with autism, yes, many of them cannot come home and tell mom and dad what happened. And, the typical response to when your kid comes home, they're 7 years old and they got a bruise on their knee is, oh my goodness, what happened in school today? So imagine being a parent where you're not going to get an answer to that. And then when you contact the school and say, what happened? He's got a big bruise on his knee. Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that happen. I'm not really sure. And then you never really know what happened. And, in most instances, kids are kids, right? They go on the playground, they fall, things happen to them. In the classroom, they might bump into things. But when you have a child who cannot tell you what happened to them, who can't tell you that maybe somebody was bullying them even in school. We have a very high incidence also of bullying children with autism. So imagine being that parent. And the way that we look at cameras is it's not just for the kids. It's also for the educators because we want everybody to feel safe in the school environment. And we want teachers to know also that that is also a resource for you. And, it's interesting because at the beginning of the advocacy efforts in Broward County, there was resistance by the Broward Teachers Union. And through the pilot program, that switched. And the teachers ended up finding, wow, this was actually pretty good for us. And so cameras are there to protect good teachers and of course our children. And as a parent, it just gives us an additional layer of security and feeling that when we can send our kids to school, that they are safe. And we've seen a fairly large exodus of children, all children, from the public school system. So I think that being able to add another layer in there that would make parents feel so much better about sending their kid into that environment, I think it's a win-win for everybody. We've actually collected news stories over just for the state of Florida over the last couple of years of when somebody does, because sometimes a paraprofessional in the classroom, or maybe there's a volunteer, will take out their camera, like their phone, and record incidences that happen in school that ends up on the 6 o'clock news, of course. And so anybody can Google and take a look at it. If you go to the Autism Society of Florida YouTube channel, you'll see a compilation there of the videos. And I don't know how anybody can watch the videos of children with disabilities. We have to remember these are kids with disabilities being hurt in school. It's a tragic part of our society that anybody would behave like that. And we really want to encourage good teachers to continue to do good stuff. And we also want to make sure that kids are protected.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're definitely doing God's work, looking after and supporting our most vulnerable population, in this case, kids with disabilities. So thank you so much for what you and your organization does. Now, I'd like to move the conversation to actually some educators who themselves, for 17 years, right?
Yeah.
For 17 years have got the clarion call, and they've answered. And they have a school. It's called Beyond Expectations Academy. Beyond Expectations Academy is a crown jewel in House District 117. This organization has roughly 85 kids, all of them with disabilities, and this couple does, and they're a couple. They do such great work with them. Let me introduce you to Mr. Sergio Caldera and Miss Urania Caldera from Beyond Expectations Academy. Thank you guys for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So tell me, what was it that made you want to go into this line of work, into this profession?
To be quite honest, her passion for it. So I got brought into this to try to help her out, and I just got sucked in. So definitely it's my wife's passion. It always has been. And
I think it stems from when I was younger. I am a speech language pathologist and a behavior analyst, and I used to get the kids for therapy in the afternoons and make progress, target their goals. But then again, I didn't have that communication with the teachers. So the child was at school from X amount of time till 3 o'clock. And I needed to get that communication. I felt like that missing piece was missing, that I couldn't communicate with the teacher. So I said, I need to open a school because I want everyone under the same roof. I believe in multidisciplinary approach. And I think that when you have the teachers, the parents, therapists all under one roof, it really works great for the children to make progress. And that has been my goal since day one, is to make progress with the child that I'm currently working with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a professional in the field and you wanted to do more for the children. And that's where Beyond Expectations Academy comes from. Now, you have to tell me, how does it feel to have your husband, like your life partner, join you on this mission?
It's amazing. I couldn't do it without him. So definitely.
And tell me, how does it feel to have a wife with so much passion? How does that make you feel as a husband, but also as a parent?
Yeah, so definitely it is her passion, like I had mentioned, and seeing her work and seeing her teach is really, it's really amazing to teach our kids and actually make progress. And I just got like sucked into this, but definitely grew my own passion to help these children out and the families. So it's a blessing.
So let's talk about the kids. Tell us about some of the children that you've had the pleasure of working with through the years. Is there any particular child or in particular case, without naming their names, that you'd like to share as one of your success stories?
So I think we have a few. We have a few. More recently, we had a student that was with us for many years, and ended up we mainstreamed that student into a typical high school. And to our last, I mean, we often see her. She's actually holding down a full-time job in a local supermarket, and is in college and driving and very independent. So that is one of the success stories that comes to mind for me. And it's it was great.
That's amazing, because we know so many times that is not the case. But the fact that you were able to come in and you were able to provide that support system, that's amazing. What do you think the importance of early detection is when it comes to children, specifically with autism?
I think it's important because a lot of skills can get taught early on. Or things you said, a lot of the children are nonverbal. So when you find that form of communication early on, it's easier for the child to learn. So if you have a child who uses an AAC device or sign language or PECS, it's a lot easier for them to learn it young when they're young versus when we have a child that comes in, maybe they're 10, 11, 12 years old, and I feel like we're starting from scratch because maybe they were never given the opportunity to facilitate communication or find other forms in that sense on how to communicate. And I think communication is very important. It's one of the first things that we target when they start our school. If they're nonverbal, how are they going to communicate daily needs and wants? And whether it's through sign language or an AAC device or something that's going to facilitate that communication. So I think that, like you said, starting early is very important for that reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's, transition to the topic at hand. I know that I had mentioned that we were working on this piece of legislation, and your eyes lit up when we said it. Providing cameras in those classrooms to help reinforce and support, the parents in knowing exactly what's going on with their child. Why do you think that's so important? Because correct me if I'm wrong, you guys already have cameras all over your school.
Yes, we do.
From day one, we decided, just for first and foremost, obviously for everybody's safety, the students, the staff, definitely transparency. Like in cases that we were discussing earlier, child gets hurt. Sometimes people don't know, and we have had cases where when we can go back to the footage, we see, child may be rubbing on the desk or hitting when on their time to be independent. And we're able to catch these things, and I think it gives everybody a sense of security that obviously, and it gives parents a peace of mind when we are able to show that footage and say, look, this is what happened here. Obviously most of the time we have staff to catch it, but definitely cameras I think are a very valuable tool for, at least in our school, that we do with children. Sometimes that they may have crisis or behavior difficulties, and I think it's transparency as well.
I could definitely appreciate that. I know that I have a family member. I recall he was nonverbal, but him and his mom, they had their own sign language where he was able to express his needs and like, okay, I want this and not that, or it's too cold. And it was amazing because the truth is a lot of these kids, like there's a spectrum there, and people learn at different levels on the spectrum. And I've just been amazed in interacting with kids with autism and the unique abilities that each one of them have. And these are our friends and family. These are people that are very, very close to us. I'd go so far as to say is most people, whether it's a family friend or neighbor, have encountered someone with autism, and it's just very important that we, as a community, continue to support that community. This year in the legislature, one of the things that Representative Michelle Salzman did was she got a bill passed that was a bill. It's an educational bill that created. Help me, Stacey. It created Disability Awareness Day.
Oh, no, the curriculum.
System.
It's actually in our schools moving forward now, there's going to be an actual curriculum on the disability history so that everybody's learning about that.
That's so important because, as Miss Stacey mentioned, a lot of times these kids are victims to bullying, and many times bullying happens because of a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding, and then a lack of empathy. And so, hopefully, with this bill and us putting it in our educational curriculum, kids will be more empathetic to kids that are different from them, and have a better understanding of that, because that's the kind of world that we want to move forward with. So, Miss Stacey, going back to you very quickly, what do you think are some next steps, not just with our bill, but things that we still need to do legislatively to support the autism community?
Well, anybody who understands politics, and it's funny because a lot of people think they understand politics, and
Amen.
they might be very vocal about politics, but when it really gets into it, they really don't understand how things actually go. And so when we talk about moving something forward, we have to look at who's on the committees that are going to look, hopefully, at that bill. Because if you guys didn't know this, if a bill is going to go before a certain committee, so it has to go before 3 House committees and 3 Senate committees. If one of those chairs decides, yeah, no, we're not really going to put this on the agenda, that's it. It doesn't move forward. So no matter how fabulous you think that piece of legislation is, it won't move. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're educating, especially those who are in positions of leadership in our state capital. So we want to look at those particular people. But I encourage everyone. It's an easy Google search. You just plug in a new little thing. Who's my representative? Who's my senator? Because you are their constituents. They literally work for you. And a lot of people, either they don't realize that or they think it doesn't matter, which it does. They listen to you. That is their job, to listen to you. So I encourage everybody to go learn who, because a lot of times I'll ask the question, like, who's your senator? And state senator there, and they'll say Senator Rubio. And I'm like, well, he's not even a senator anymore. And so, because people get caught up in all of that stuff. So we want to make sure that people know who their people are, so that you're connecting with the right person and being able to educate them. It's interesting because, like, something you had mentioned before about like the numbers and the people out there with different disabilities. When we used to do different types of trainings, we used to ask, who in here knows someone with autism? We'd get a few people. Now the question is the opposite: who doesn't know someone with autism? And we hardly ever have anyone raise their hand, because almost everyone either has a person with autism somewhere in their family, or they know someone, maybe they're the neighbor of someone. So really, literally, whoever you are that's listening to this and watching this, chances are really good that you know someone with autism. So we're trying to make sure that we educate all of our state legislature, if they don't understand autism, about what the needs are, and not just autism, understanding that, like you said before, looking to serve those who are most vulnerable in our communities and making sure that they're safe. I just want to go back real quick for a second, because I loved the story that you guys shared about your school and your success story. I've been an educational advocate for 25 years, and my best outcome students are those who are included. And sometimes kids are included in regular ed for a portion of their day. Sometimes it's all day. But exactly what you guys achieved there is really what we want for all kids with disabilities, to be able to get the resources that they need to get them ready to move on to their next adventure, and then hopefully become tax-paying citizens in the world of work. So I applaud those efforts. And I just want to add one more thing. There's something called the Hawthorne effect. And the Hawthorne effect is how we all behave a little bit differently when there's cameras around. We have cameras at a gas station. We have cameras at McDonald's. We have cameras in Walmart. Literally everywhere we go, there's cameras, so that we all watch our own behavior and we all act appropriately and don't make foolish mistakes that are going to impact us later. And so why would our children, or why should our children be safer in Walmart than they are in a classroom?
That is a great question to ask. So you heard Miss Stacey. Miss Stacey's giving us some homework now. Go identify who your state representative is, who your state senator is. Just Google it. Who's my rep? Who's my senator? And if you want to help support this cause, reach out to them, email them, call their office, let them know exactly what your thoughts are and how important this issue is. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk now about how you can actually support, whether it's the Autism Society of Florida or this great school, Beyond Expectations Academy. If someone wanted to support your school, or they wanted to reach out to you because they had questions, how could they contact you?
Definitely they can either show up to our facility. We always have our doors open. We're located at 10920 Southwest 184th Street in Cutler Bay, and or call the office, call the school to 305-378-5775. And no, I mean, we're always there. Definitely. Our website is www.beyond-expectations.org, and we're there to serve our community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I know that you guys are going through a transition now. You're looking for a new facility. Um, how big do you need a facility to be? Because we want to ask the community, they're about to move, they're growing, they're doing such amazing work. They're going to be going to a new facility soon. We're going to need your help to help identify potential facilities for them. So give us the parameters of what the facility needs would be.
So basically, we're moving into 3 different locations. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a location big enough to house us all, like how where we're currently located. So anything that, ideally would be a property at least around 12,000 square feet, just to keep us all under the same roof. Because with our move now, we unfortunately have to move to 3 different locations. So that's.
So those are the parameters. They're looking for a new location. If you know of a formerly used school or commercial building, if you know of a church that's underutilized or is empty, please reach out to them. They've given you their contact information. They're looking for a good facility to continue doing the good work that they do. And we know that here, community newspapers, we act as a community and we come together as a community. And so we're asking the community to support this great work. Miss Stacey, tell me, how can folks support the Autism Society of Florida?
Well, we would love to have more people kind of rally the troops, right, and join us. So if you go to autismfl.org, you can go to that website. There's actually a page on advocacy, which talks about the state legislature and how to communicate with your legislator, like what to say. What do you say? What do you do? How do you do all that stuff? So all that's on there. There's another page that's called the Safe Schools Task Force. And that task force meets the second Monday of each month at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And so I hope that you will join that, because that's a great way, not only to learn from the people who are kind of in the middle of this, because there's some really smart people, much smarter than me, people for sure, on that committee who really understand the dynamics and all the inners of all types of legislation, but particularly the cameras in classroom, because that's one that we're really super focused on this year. So I hope you guys will check that out. There's lots of information on the website, resources, everything that you need, everything's there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to thank Miss Stacey for joining me by Zoom on today. I want to thank the Caldera family for joining me. I'm so inspired by the work that you do, by the passion. Now that I know the story behind it, I'm even a bigger supporter and fan of you. I know my good friend, Representative Barrera, has met with you as well, and he's an advocate, and we just saw Representative Blanco here earlier, so now he's an advocate. We're going to get you a team of folks that are going to stand behind you, even as you're going through transition, because we believe not just in you, but in the work that you're doing with these young people.
Thank you.
Again, I'm State Representative Kevin Chambliss, and this has been the first time that I've had a chance to host in this space. I hope you've enjoyed the topic of discussion. I hope that you share the fact that this is an important community that we want to support. We want to make sure that we are being a good neighbor to each other, no matter what side of the aisle we are, no matter what side of the fence we're on. We want to make sure that we're the village that takes care of the family, specifically when it comes to our children. So if you want to see how this bill goes along, if you want to follow the process, my email address is kevin.chambliss@myfloridahouse.gov. Kevin is spelled Kevin. Chambliss is spelled CHAMBLISS at myfloridahouse.gov. Our office is located on Miami-Dade College Homestead's campus. We're in Building F on the second floor, right across from the multi-purpose room. We're there to obviously be a part of the community. We are here for you. And as we're wrapping up, this won't be the last time that you guys see me. We're going to come back here in a couple of weeks with some more amazing guests, with some more amazing stories. There's a lot of work for us to do. We are in a very interesting time in our community, in our nation. But I tell you, I believe that we are going to become more united than ever, that we're going to put down partisan lines, that we're going to put down ethnic background lines, and we are going to be that one community that we all strive to be, a community that's safe and a community that's building a better future for our children. So that's our time. I hope you guys all have a blessed day. And again, thank you to my guests for kicking off our first podcast here at Community Newspapers.